Welcome back to another video, guys. I want to talk about the very first thing you should do if you're buying timberland anywhere across the Midwest, really across the entire country. This is something you should be getting done as soon as possible. The first thing you need to be doing when you buy a property with timber on it is getting a timber tax basis. Essentially what that is an appraisal done of the timber. And I've talked about this in some of my other videos, but I want to touch on it again because I feel like it's super important that you get this done as soon as possible when you close on a property. So a timber tax basis is essentially evaluating the value of the timber at the time of purchasing the property. So when you buy a piece of land and it's got timber on it, you are not only purchasing that land, you are purchasing the timber with it. And so what my goal is to separate the value of the land and the timber apart from each other. So as an example, this is actually a property that I purchased several years ago. I don't have it anymore, but I think I paid $210,000 for that piece of land, and it had approximately $50,000 worth of timber on that property. So really what I paid, if I can do the math in my head, would be $160,000 for the land and $50,000 for the timber. And so what that allows me to do is set that scenario aside. Let's say I purchase a piece of property for $100,000. A year later, I sell that property for $100,000. There's not been any gain made, so there's not going to be taxes on that gain or on that sale. And so the same thing is true for the timber. When you separate that apart, you paid $50,000 for that timber. You can harvest up to that amount without ever triggering a gain. Rarely are you going to, just do a clear cut across your entire property. And so you may harvest, say, $30,000 of that $50,000, and that's going to be completely tax-free. And so you still have $20,000 worth of, equity in this timber remaining. So the next time you do another harvest, say 15, 20 years down the road, you do another harvest, say you cut off another $30,000 at that point, you basically subtract 20 from that 30, you're only paying taxes on $10,000. So that's a pretty significant amount of money you're saving by getting this tax basis done. And, I do want to preface that is going to lower your basis in your property. So, again, like I said, you actually paid $160 now for your piece of land. So if you just go and flip that land and don't plan to do a 1031 or anything like that, it doesn't really make much sense to bother with a tax basis because you're going to pay it in the sale of the property. So when looking at the amount of savings that something like this can create, I've had sales of $150,000 or more. On one of the bigger sales I did was close to $250,000 worth of timber that we're selling off. And so, you're looking at an insane amount of tax savings by getting that basis done. Again, obviously I'm not a CPA, work with your CPA on this, and this does require somebody that's familiar with, real estate and some of this stuff, but it's a pretty common practice at this point to get this done. And the cost for something like this is pretty insignificant. And so the amount of savings you have there is very much worth it. And so I advise everybody I come in contact with, even if it's not a significant amount of timber, just get it done. That way what's there, and even if it's not quite ready to be harvested, you're going to have some savings there. Something like this is super valuable as a landowner, and just helps you make better decisions when you are aware of what's on your property. Because like I said, this is going to give you a basis of value, and you're going to be able to see exactly what's there. Now, that being said, say you bought a property 5 years ago and you're like, oh, well, I've never heard of this, we should get this done. Yeah, you can still get it done even 5 years later. So what we're able to do is basically grow the trees backwards, looking at average growth rates across the United States with your different species, and then looking back at historic standing timber prices. And so we're able to basically give that timber a value at the time when you purchase the property. So even then, it is, very, very valuable. Once you get past 7, 8, 9 years, it begins to get, you know, a little difficult to say actually how much growth you had there, and it gets way more difficult to do. But if you're within that, you know, 5-year window and less, it's very much worth taking the time to get one done. And especially you want to get it done before you do have an actual harvest happening. If you just go and just have a harvest happen and then, you know, you want to get a basis done after, it's too late at that point. The trees are gone. There's no way to calculate anymore the amount of board feet that was on that property and to accurately give a basis of value at that point. So this is something you very much want to get done beforehand. And you know, this is something too that can be of value when you go to sell your property. Say you never even give, you know, do the sale while you own the property, it can still provide value on the sale, saying, hey, there is an estimated X amount of dollars of timber on this property. And that goes a long ways when selling a piece of land for people to understand the total value of that piece of ground. So if you are interested in having this done, I work specifically out of Ohio, but on the tax basis side, I've been doing, you know, quite a bit of out-of-state projects. So, you know, Ohio, Indiana, Michigan, Illinois, Kentucky, Pennsylvania, West Virginia, all of these states around Ohio that's, you know, within reasonable proximity, I am willing to come out and do a basis for you. You can go on to treestandforestry.com, fill out the contact me form. In that, there's going to be a reason for inquiry, and in that you can just choose tax basis, and I'll reach out to you within a day or two. I appreciate you watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.